Today's guest on Music Drives Us needs no introduction, but it must be said that next year we'll be celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Monkees. So please welcome to Music Drives Us, Micky Dolenz. Hey, Micky.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yep. 60 years and counting.
It is such an honor to talk to you. We'll talk about the anniversary. We'll talk about your album, Micky Dolenz Live from the Troubadour. We'll talk about your current tour, your book. I'm told I had a good time, which is the best title for a book ever. That implies a lot. So we'll talk about all that. But as we got together to get you on the podcast on Music Drives Us, I'm looking at my phone and I see a Paul McCartney video. Paul McCartney's backstage walking on stage with his band, and they're singing your song, the Monkees theme. That's got to be celebrating 60 years. That's got to be an incredible validation.
Oh, yeah. Paul and I, of course, go way, way back. He's always been so gracious, a great friend over the years. He was the first Beatle that I met back in 60 or whatever. I just had dinner with him one night at his house in Maida Vale. We just me, him, and the sheepdog. And he invited me to a recording session the next day for a new album they were making at Abbey Road Studios called Sergeant something. Uh, Sergeant Bilko. Yeah. Anyway, I tell the story and do some Beatles stuff in my show. Yeah, Paul has always been gracious. I bump into him once in a while and we have a little chat. And he did that backstage. I saw a video of that a number of years ago. The first time I saw him and the band do that on their way to the stage. I guess some kind of vocal warm up. I don't know, but yeah, I mean that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
He's such a lovely man, such a great talent. Wow.
I know you got a couple of Beatles stories tucked away in your book and on your tour. So I'll try to squeeze one out of here before the end of our show. I want to talk about how the Troubadour, what it meant to you. Are you an official Hollywood vampire? And that iconic photo of you, John Lennon, Alice Cooper, Harry Nilsson, and Anne Murray that was taken, I think, in 73. That's such an iconic photo. Isn't that kind of representative of how you've come full circle at the Troubadour?
Yeah, that's why I did. That's one of the reasons I chose to do the show at the Troubadour. Um, was I was looking for a venue that was comfortable and not too big because I was doing it as a recording and a video, but also in aid of Make a Wish, my favorite charity. The album is uh, you know donated. The proceeds donated to Make a Wish. And the Troubadour, yeah, that was our go-to place back then. There were other clubs. There was the Whiskey, of course, and more rock and roll. The Troubadour was a little bit more laid back, a little more folk rock, or a little, things like that. The first place I saw Linda Ronstadt and the Stone Ponies and people like that. Um, and Mike Nesmith was the hoot master when I first met him. He was doing Monday nights, and it was very folk oriented, which, I was too a little bit at the time. Anyway, that was our go-to place, and that's one of the places where I'm told I had a great time. I I spent 2 years there one night. So that's why I decided to do the show at the Troubadour, and it was famous, infamous. I mean, Doug Weston, who was the impresario, um, he was amazing at spotting talent. I tell a couple of stories about him and the people that he had at the Troubadour. You'll have to come to the show if you want to hear those.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I was one of the original Hollywood vampires. Myself and Alice, he lived next door, and came to me one day and said, I want to start a softball team. The Hollywood Vampires originally was a softball team where we would play softball on the weekends, charity matches like against other record companies or the fire department, LAPD, and we would raise a little money for charities. Then we would go to the Troubadour and have a beer and drink and have pizza and stuff. But if you see any photos of us as a baseball team, the Hollywood Vampires, we're in baseball shirts that Alice had made. Um, John, I don't remember John actually playing in any of the games. I think Harry might have. Peter Tork was one of the best softball players.
Right.
Alice pitched. I think Peter was left field or shortstop. I tended to play first base. I remember, and Albert Brooks was in it, and
Albert Brooks.
lots of others. But that night, the photo you're talking about, it was at the Troop. Helen Reddy's. No, who am I saying?
Anne
Uh,
Murray?
Anne Murray.
Uh,
Oh God, Anne
It's a
Murray's
long time ago.
manager. Yeah, long time ago. Anne Murray's manager at the time was also working with Alice, and we were all there seeing Anne doing a show, and we were all sitting together. And the manager kind of set it up with a photographer and said, "Come on over and take a photo." Because that's when I was hanging out a lot with Harry. He was basically my best friend at the time, and John and he were very tight, as you probably know, and Alice and I, and we were just there all the time. But it was, quite laid back. There was no paparazzi, there was no social media, no one knew where you were, and in Hollywood especially, famous, well-known people, they're just like furniture. You don't, we weren't being chased around or harassed or bugged by anybody. It was, you're at the Trube and everybody was, "Hey, Mickey, how's it going? Hey, John, what's happening?" Very laid
and
back.
and no one knew who Anne Murray was. She was brand new, right? She was a brand new
Yeah.
artist.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Wow.
That was
So
her premiere, I believe.
right, right. Wow. Well, that photo the next day showed up around the world in every newspaper. What a smart branding marketing idea for her manager. They get you and Alice Cooper and John Lennon and Harry Nilsson in a photo with an up and coming starlet.
Yeah.
And I guess Anne did pretty good. So you guys probably
Yeah.
helped.
Yep.
So was there any drinking at the Troubadour with the Hollywood Vampires? Baseball, okay, but what happened at night? I heard you guys drank a lot.
Well, doesn't everybody? You don't drink, I guess.
No, no, I no, but I'm not a vampire. See, a vampire implies
Drinking blood.
nighttime.
Well,
Oh
maybe
yeah,
Bloody
well,
Marys, not blood, but maybe Bloody Marys.
right.
Um,
But it
of
implies
course,
midnight to 5.
of course. No, it was probably not quite as extreme, and you know, things become a little bit of urban myth. No, we
Right.
went and had dinner, and after the softball game, we'd go there and just we'd have drinks and pizza, and they had really damn good food at the Troubadour. Believe it or not, it's
Wow.
kind of Italian and great pizza, great spaghetti, great steak. It's a really and still is a very cool place to eat.
Yeah.
And so we would go and hang out after the event, after the softball game, which we usually lost, by the way. And so we'd go drown our sorrows in
Right.
beer.
Right. Well, let's take a turn and get a little more serious for a moment. In the 60s, there's the British invasion, the Beatles, Stones, and in America, it was the Beach Boys and the Monkees. And we said goodbye to Brian Wilson 3 weeks ago, and you actually knew him from the Beach Boys. Can you share what this means to you and how his legacy impacted you and your friendship?
Well, I didn't know him desperately well. I met him, first time I met him was way back in the 70s when he came over to my house one night to meet John Lennon. And I tell that story in my show, but you'll have to come to the show to hear it because it's involved. It goes on a bit. Um,
Right.
and we just stayed friends, and I would bump. You know, he wasn't a very public figure. He didn't go out that much, as we all know. He had some health issues over the years, but every time I would bump into him, he was very, very gracious. I was a huge Beach Boy fan, huge, before the Monkees. Um, and so it was my honor, to get to know him. And I saw him only maybe a year or so ago having lunch somewhere. At this point, it's in my life, I just turned 80. I mean, it seems like almost every day. I mean, I lost a dear friend, Bobby Sherman, just a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago. And of course, well, Harry Nilsson many, many years ago. Um, but at this point in your life, it's almost like you wake up in the morning and go, "Oh shit, who's next?" But that's life. That's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just kind of, go wow and have a toast. Every time I go anywhere and have dinner or something, I'll always toast somebody, Brian or Harry or
Right.
whoever.
Right. What did he mean to you as a musician? I mean, his music, if you look, when he passed away, the tributes that came out from Elton John and Paul McCartney and you, what did he mean to you from a music standpoint?
Well, I was a fan, but initially, and this is before the Monkees, the Beach Boys were
Yeah.
around, obviously. Um, and I was a fan, so I was thrilled when I did meet him. Um, and I don't know if there's anything I can say that hasn't already been said. To me, he was, and Mike and the others too, but Brian was really unique, and he was sort of that heart and soul. He had such a sense of melody and um, you know, uh, I don't even know how you could describe it
Yeah.
in musical
Yeah.
terms. You can't really deconstruct these things. It doesn't work
Yeah.
like that. You can't take apart a song and say, "Oh, well, it was that one transition from C to B."
Right.
That
Right.
was that. It doesn't work like that. The whole
Right.
becomes greater than the sum of its parts. And well, you say right, but believe me, a lot of people don't get that. And they do try to deconstruct and they say, oh, well, if I write a song that has the word surfing and girls in it, it'll be a hit. it,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that.
No. No.
You can't
No.
deconstruct anything like that.
No.
Um,
No.
and so a lot of it is unexplainable. It's a little bit of magic. The whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. You count yourself lucky, and it becomes a little bit of magic. That's the same kind of thing happened with the Monkees. Remember the Monkees was not a group. It wasn't a band. It was a TV show about a group, an imaginary one, kind of like Glee was a TV show about an imaginary Glee club decades later.
Right.
But they could all do it. They could sing and dance and act and whatever. And the Monkees was like that. We were cast because we could act, sing, play an instrument, be funny, improvise. Um, but you got to remember that about the Monkees, but and everybody was trying their hardest, but there are no guarantees. People ask me this all the time: What was the success of the Monkees? And I go, well, I name it. I mean, the songs, the writing, the TV, the directors, the writers, producers. Um, all of it adds up. One of the producers, the creator of the show, Bob Rafelson, was asked once what he put the success down to, and he said, "We just caught lightning in a bottle." And that's what happens.
Did you know? Maybe this is a dumb question, but did you know you were that funny? Because when I met you, last year at one of the events, I was expecting the Mickey from the Monkees, and I found a very thoughtful, mindful, serious musician. Not that you weren't serious in the Monkees, but did you know? Because you were kind of to me anyway, the breakout comic on that show. Did you know you were that funny? Were you that funny growing up?
I was kind of a wackadoodle. Yeah, I would get scolded in classes just making some wisecrack. But I grew up in a showbiz family, so that kind of expressionism, I mean, was a common. My mom had a great sense of humor. My dad was an actor, and my mom was an actress, and so I was exposed to performing at a very young age, and I was. Yeah, I mean, today I'd probably be have some sort of designation, but at the time in those days, my mom would just say, "Mickey, you've got ants in your pants," you know, because I was running around like crazy. Yeah, but I was a bit of a school class clown, if you will, a little bit. But I was also an actor, and in Circus Boy, the series I did when I was 10 before the Monkees, I wasn't a comedian, a comic. It was a little serious kind of drama adventure show, like Rin Tin Tin or Lassie or something like that. But when I was cast as the Monkees, I knew exactly what I was being cast for. The pilot script, which I read for the audition and we did as a pilot, my character, which wasn't Mickey in the pilot script originally, uh, which I still have, it was something else like Bert or Jim or Bill or something. But he was a wacky Jerry Lewis kind of Red Skelton kind of character. And I knew that, and so I played that. So in the television show, which I call Monkeys Point One, um, that's the character that I played. But it wasn't a flat out alien character to my personality, to my character. It was let's say an extrapolation, a
Right.
caricature. But that's
Right.
how they hired us. Mike's character was a little bit of an extrapolation of who he was for real. Same with Davy. Peter was the one that had the toughest job, frankly, in that sense. Peter, talk about thoughtful and this guy, college educated, uh, brilliant, one of the smartest guys, well read guys I've ever met, very quiet and thoughtful and
Peter
philosophic.
Tork. Right.
Peter
Yeah.
Tork, yeah. And he played the dummy. He played the Hunts Hall kind of character. He played Harpo Marx. Didn't talk much. And he was
Right.
kind of, come on, Peter. Oh, Peter, you did it again. Yeah. And that was
Were
tough
you,
because he was not like that.
Right. No slam to the Partridge Family, but the Monkees, you guys had a lot of hits. Pleasant Valley Sunday, Daydream Believer, the Monkees theme, I'm a Believer, Steppin' Stone, Last Train to Clarksville, hit after hit after hit from Tommy Boyce. Were you surprised that you had so many hits? Were you expecting that?
Well, of course, you don't expect it at the time. I was 20 years old, remember?
wow.
20, 21 years old. And I was working 10, 12 hours a day on the set doing the show, and then going into the studio at night with Tommy and Bobby and as producers of the early stuff, and maybe doing two lead vocals a night.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, frankly, much about any of it except I had a good time. I guess it was a lot of hard work, and it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
24/7 for months and months filming the show and then recording at night and then rehearsing to do the tours. But no, you never know at the time. You hope and you work hard and you surround yourself with people that are talented. You hope and they're working hard. You hope, and then then like I said before, if it all goes well, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts, and you have a hit. But it was years later when I look back, I can go, well, you know, Carole King did not write a lot of duff tunes. and Neil Diamond and Boyce and Hart and Harry Nilsson, who wrote for us, and David Gates, and all kinds of people. These are
Yeah.
not your average slouch songwriters. So no, that part, and of course it was all screened and it was all vetted. All the songs were carefully crafted, the productions carefully crafted, and so looking back, I'm not as surprised. No, but
Let's go back.
I don't
Let's go
I don't
back
give
to.
a lot of
Sorry.
that credit to myself. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. You can finish, please.
Well, remember, I don't take all that credit myself. There was a whole lot of other
Right.
people involved, but I am blessed that I did sing a lot of those leads.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Let's go back to the Troubadour. MickyDolenz.com is where we can get your live at the Troubadour album. The Troubadour in LA. You were there at the beginning, and I'm gonna pull some teeth here to get you share at least one nugget. You saw a young Elton John debut at the Troubadour, right? You were there. And isn't
Right?
there a funny story that night that happened later after at a party?
Yeah, yeah, but it's a really long one, and I really like to save that punchline for the show because it comes along with the song. But yeah, the short version is I went to he was unknown. He came out to Los Angeles, I guess. A friend of mine who was somehow representing him or helping or doing something said, "You got to come down and see this young kid and his band. They're amazing, great English songwriter, singer songwriter." And my wife and we said, "Yeah, absolutely," because we would go down there frequently. And yeah, well, I do remember vaguely. It was a long time ago. I was sitting in the front row, and I was, everybody was blown away. He was and amazing, and we were invited to an after party at his house or at my friend's house,
Right.
and the guy said, you know, come in and meet Elton John, and that's about all I remember. Frankly, I I I don't remember bumping into him often after that over the years. I think mainly because he was in England and I was in the States. But that's what happened at the Troubadour. I mean, like I mentioned before, Linda Ronstadt, Buffalo Springfield. Um, oh, I'm trying to think of somebody. And Neil Diamond, I think, had one of his premiere performances as an
Wow.
artist at
Yep.
the Troubadour. It was
He
a
wrote
great
I'm a
venue
Believer.
for that. Yep,
I
and
like
little
Neil's
bit me,
version.
little bit you.
I like your version better of I'm a Believer. That's the one I know. I like Neil's, but I like yours
Yeah.
better.
I just bumped into Smash Mouth at an airport, and they came over to say hi. And of course, they had a really great version on Shrek. In
Oh, it's
fact,
fantastic.
when I when I do that in my show, just before I do it, I say, "Are there any little kids in the audience?" And usually there's a couple, and I go, "Listen, little kid, don't forget, I did this song long before Shrek."
they didn't they did a good job. That was almost an homage to yours. They really didn't shy away too much from the original. Would you agree?
That was great. It was great, great version, great cover.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book, which is the funniest title I've ever heard. The title is from Micky Dolenz. I'm told I had a good time. So what does that imply?
Well, it's an old saying, and it's only half in jest. Um, but it was 60 years ago, and a lot was going on. And uh, I mean, at 21 years old, most people have a pretty good time. You know, you still haven't hit, having to be responsible so much. That's kind of when you experience the world for the first time, and relationships and going out and having a good time. In my case, when you're in that kind of a situation, and certainly back then it happened, but even more so now. And I touched upon it before. When you are so much is going on, you kind of get in the middle of the hurricane, and you're in the eye of the storm, and all this stuff's going on around you. And you see it today in young artists, especially. They get that glassy look in their eyes, like a deer being caught in the headlights of a car. And you can tell they have just no idea where they are, who they are, what's going on, because so much input, the way I look at it, being kind of a computer geek, you get so much input that your cache gets full, your your solid state memory gets full, and you get the blue screen of death. You just crash, and you just can't take in anything else. Your memory banks are full. That's it, gone. So all you can do is get up every day and try to do the gig and do your job. And that you see it a lot today with, see, we didn't have social media. Like I mentioned, we had none of what's going on today going on, where you really are the center of a friggin' storm. We could escape it a little bit. You just go home.
Right.
You can't just go home now and escape it.
Yeah.
I'd go
So
home after the show and recording on the weekend, and I'd building a gyrocopter in my living room, and very seldom was there any contact with fans of the public of where I lived, or even if I went out shopping or dinner or anything. It was very
well,
seldom. It did happen.
What advice, our podcast and the foundation, we've raised millions of dollars. Our founder, Ernie Bach Jr., created this foundation to raise money and put music and equipment and funding into schools to help these kids have a focus and keep the music programs alive. So you touched on exactly kind of what we're doing here. What advice could you give that young person with all the data coming at them now and all this new technology? What can you teach them maybe to help them stay focused and not get the blue screen of death?
Well, first of all, get a good lawyer.
Good
And
advice.
that's only half in jest. Well, I can go on about that. I've given talks about that, but briefly, uh, to remember that there's two words in show business: show and business. And you'd be surprised how many people I meet that have been in the business and are successful that haven't really thought of it like that. And when I explain it, they go, "Oh my God, you're right." There's two words in show business, and you have to be good at both. Or if you're not good at both, get somebody who is. Hopefully you're good at the show, you have talent. And if you can be good at the business part, then that's great. If you can't, then for God's sakes, get somebody who is. That's very important, because you've got to do both, because you are the product. You are, like I love saying, you're not only the vacuum cleaner salesman, you're the vacuum. And that is very difficult for people to deal with. Oh, it always has been, to sell yourself. If you're a salesman for, I don't know, cars, you're a Ford salesman. Well, you do your best and you work hard and you pump the product and you're like, oh, this is the greatest. You go home, you don't necessarily take it with you. You don't go home and cry if you didn't sell a car, or if that year the model is not really that great, but you still got to go out and hype it. You don't identify. But when it's you as a singer, actor, musician, right, whatever, when you are the car, it becomes much more difficult. And that's the best advice I think I can give. Learn to work both sides, wear both hats, and know when to switch hats.
Right. And surround yourself with people that could assist you in the area that you need help. Try not to do it all.
Absolutely.
Show
Absolutely,
business.
yeah.
Wise words from Micky Dolenz, our guest on Music Drives Us from the Monkees, celebrating 60 years next year. Any surprises? Anything coming? What can you tell us? Little
Well,
nugget,
we got
something.
lots of plans. We got lots of plans. I mean, they won't be probably surprises. They'll be well, well promoted if they come to fruition. Lots of plans, little early days, but I certainly, if at the very least, will be going out and starting to celebrate, um, the 60 years of the television show going on the air and the first singles and records and stuff like that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. 60 years and counting.
Back in, was it early 80s? What was it like for MTV to revisit the Monkees and expose you, your great voice, your songs with your brothers in the band to an entirely new audience? What was that like?
It was incredible. I was living in England. I was a television director and producer, and I hadn't been on stage or recorded in years and years. And somebody said, "You want to come back to the States and do a few gigs?" And like I told you, like 5 years later, I was still on the road. It was amazing. And that's when I looked back and kind of realized a little bit about why and how that happened. Um, it was great. It was, that did take me by surprise. Yeah.
Well, MickyDolenz.com, that's where you can get the book, which you got to get. I'm told I had a good time. Your album, Live at the Troubadour, all these great stories jam-packed at your shows. And I think you got another 25, 26 dates this year still. You're coming to my neck of the woods here in Boston at the City Winery, I believe in November, and you got a date in September in Rhode Island at East Greenwich. Man, you're doing it and you're hotter than ever. And as we go into the 60th anniversary of the Monkees, bless your heart. Thank you for coming on our podcast and just delivering unbelievable entertainment and love all these years. And
Thank you
we
so
will
much.
come and see you.
I hope so.
MickyDolenz.com. You got to
Thank you.
see Micky's show. You are a living legend and you are an important piece of rock and roll history. Paul McCartney would not be singing your songs walking up on stage if you weren't part of rock history. So Micky Dolenz, from the bottom of our heart on Music Drives Us, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.